Welcome to Issues That Matter. I'm Cynthia Pooler. My guest today is my Common Council member, Sergio Adams, and he's going to talk about the resolution that he introduced in the Albany Common Council for a ceasefire in Gaza. So you did this with your colleague Gabriel Romano, correct?
Yes, Gabriela Romero.
I'm
Um,
sorry.
this initially started with constituents, though, and the constituents coming to myself and asking for support around a ceasefire resolution. And this was back in early November.
Wow. So, and then when were a lot of people um asking you for this?
It was a buildup of community support. When we initially first started to have the conversation of possibly doing the resolution, myself and some other constituents were just meeting, doing one-on-ones, just brainstorming on ideas. Um, After we were able to get a base of the direction of what we wanted the resolution to kind of look like or address, that's when I was able to bring in Councilwoman Romero to further assist. And when we joined together, we were able to bring additional groups into the organizing to be able to build this coalition of support that we end up having towards the end. So we started out with a small group. Day after day after day, the group continued to grow to the point where we had, um, local organizations, nonprofits. We had statewide organizations, even national organizations that were interested in signing on in support for this resolution. So the support was definitely there, and it grew over time, and it's still growing.
So what name some of the groups?
Well, you have like the JVP, which is the Jewish Voice of Peace.
Uh-huh.
Uh, Organizations like the NAACP. You had organizations, local organizations that represented the mosque in Albany, but also in the capital region. You also had the labor unions join on as well. So it again is a coalition of just a diverse group of individuals. So we had individuals from our Muslim religion and um, individuals with Palestinian background. We
Hmm.
had individuals from our Jewish constituents who were in support for this ceasefire, as well as young individuals, older individuals. Really, you had people from all walks of life supporting this resolution.
So this resolution was the first in the state,
Yes, it was the first for any municipality in New York State. Correct.
and since then, has there been any other municipalities that have passed the resolution?
Not to my knowledge in New York, but I was watching um, the YouTube channel Democracy Now,
Okay.
and on there they had mentioned, I believe there was a municipality somewhere in Connecticut, I believe,
Hmm.
uh, just recently passed as well as ours. So, I think the momentum for local municipalities are starting to shift where their residents, constituents, people in those cities are organizing and really applying pressure to local governments to um, do action.
So actually, this resolution was passed in Albany, New York. What will be the outcome for this resolution passing? You're not gonna, you're not gonna stop the war, right?
No, but
So,
we do need to send a message to our government, and that message is that the people that they represent are not in support of this war. They are not in support of how the United States is handling the war, and they also are opposed to their tax-paying dollars going towards this genocide.
Has Kirsten Gillibrand or Chuck Schumer or Paul Tonko, are they aware of this resolution that was passed in Albany? And if so, what was their reaction?
Well, you mentioned just to go back a bit, back in early mid-October, Councilwoman Romero and myself wrote a letter to Congressman Paul Tonko calling for him to call for a ceasefire. That letter was signed by other elected officials, community members, and was sent out. This was prior to the resolution started being worked on. Since then, the communication to higher elected officials have been made through our organizations on the ground and them contacting their elected officials, sending letters. We did petitions that had over 3,000 signatures on it. So the word has got out to them. Since this resolution was passed, I have not heard from either of their offices to know their current feelings towards it, but I am sure that they are aware.
Yes, but they have not uh given an answer on their position on it, have they?
Not clearly, I don't believe.
Okay.
Um, Not clearly. I believe Congressman Tonko may have put out a statement condoning, excuse me, not he put out a statement against the war. Um, Prior or other to that, I'm not certain as to what other action has been taken on their end.
Well, I know that there's been resolutions throughout the country. I got an email from a friend who said that there's been a number of resolutions throughout the country, kind of like what we're doing here in Albany. Okay, my question to you is, if there's a groundswell of resolutions throughout the country to do a ceasefire, and the people in Washington are not listening, they continue the war. Biden continues the war. Netanyahu continues the war. Then what?
Well, then, in those situations or in that situation, then you would hope that over time that these local municipalities, cities, places, towns are able to continue to work with their communities to bridge that gap and foster stronger relationships. On the government side of things, I think depending on how this war and just how things end up playing out, those individuals who, um, pushed back against this resolution and pushed back for a ceasefire, election day has to come sometime. And, people will remember this when it's time for an election year. So they can, stall or, do tactics that um, doesn't support what the community wants or what their um, constituents want to see. But that day is going to come where they're going to have to answer for that, and people are going to go to the polls and be voting within this upcoming year and a half. So there's several offices running for office soon, and those individuals are going to have to address that then.
Because all 435 congressional members are up for re-election this November. And if there's a groundswell of support for a ceasefire throughout the country, and these Congress people are not listening, something's got to give.
Something does got to give. And again, that people waking up and seeing the true colors and being able to say, I'm not supporting that. We can have there are other candidates who can better represent, who have empathy, sympathy, understanding, compassion in these situations for these communities and decide to do something better and lead better.
I'm kind of grinning right now because, I've been involved in politics for a long time, as you know, and a lot of times the elected officials don't necessarily adhere to the will of the people. And when there's so many people dying in the Middle East, I think it's a shame. And if the Congress people are not listening, it's horrible. And if there's no alternative to what's coming up, the people who are running, the incumbents, or the people in the Democratic Party or in the Republic, if they're not listening, then the war is going to continue.
Right. Agreed, but that's even more of a reason why people here on the ground need to continue to work together, educate, and apply pressure to those levels of government in order for them to do what's necessary and do what's right. The unfortunate thing about politics is that you have organizations, behind closed doors or even out in the open who are attacking and going after individuals who are supporting this call for a ceasefire. So you have organizations and some of these political PACs that are putting money behind candidates to push them out. And in the situation, I would hope that people recognize that as a tactic and say we're not going to allow that to happen to these people who are standing up in support for life.
So you proposed this resolution with Gabriella, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Uh, was it your idea? Was it her idea? How did this transpire?
Um, so again, the Muslim community, Palestinian community, came to myself to speak to me about creating a ceasefire resolution after numerous weeks of ongoing war and deaths. Um, to go back as to what created and started this whole movement was back when the October
7.
7th attack happened, and shortly a few days later, the Albany Common Council had put forth a resolution condemning Hamas in the attack. Um, when that was brought to the floor to be voted on, every council member voted for it. Every council member supported the council member and the sponsors who um, put forth that resolution. Um, Being able to recognize, though, that the resolution at that time to some people felt one sided, that
Right.
addressed the issue of one particular group of people and not people as a whole. So
Mm-hmm.
from that resolution that the Common Council passed back in October, again, these constituents had seen that resolution and felt like they had no voice and that what was happening to them wasn't being acknowledged, wasn't being expressed to the public for people to understand the dire need for a ceasefire. Um, so I understood where they were coming from. I spoke with them and met with them several times before we had got this um, started to make sure that um, I gave them the opportunity to speak, to be heard in a safe, comfortable setting.
And
And
go
that's
ahead. I'm sorry.
that's really what these people wanted was being residents of the city in Albany and knowing and feeling that their local government sees them, they hear them, they understand what's going on the other side of the world, but can see how that is impacting these individuals here. So while we have moments of um, some Islamophobia um, show its head, and we have some of these situations of anti-Semitic comments and thoughts happen. That's happening locally here. That was something that had been going on, but we needed to find a way to address it and do it in a peaceful manner. And so, by working on this resolution, we were able to reach out to all these different groups to organize them to one accord to say, this is our position. We feel that the war in Gaza is going on for too long. The amount of life being lost is too much. And we're getting to a point where we're having a group of people no longer being able to live or go back to their homes because it's being destroyed. And we're watching all of this in real time.
So, since you were at the Common Council in Albany was the first in the state, has any other municipalities in New York come up with a similar proposal since this passed that you're
Um,
aware of?
I know there's some municipalities I think looking into it. I'm not familiar or for sure um, which ones, but I think there are a couple looking to try to do the same. But this wasn't an easy task of trying to pass this resolution. By no means. This resolution took over 2 months to get passed, and anyone like yourself, Cynthia, or been to any of our meetings in the past where you haven't really seen a resolution be held up for that long to be passed. So I would, for other municipalities who are looking to do this, that they may be faced with the same obstacles, but the solution and the steps to get it passed, I think, is the same of which others have been doing so far, and that's organizing people, boots on the ground, education, and also applying pressure to their elected officials.
So before before you guys did this, was there any other resolutions that had national and international repercussions, or is this the first one?
No, this is definitely not the first one. The Albany Common Council has had a history of putting out resolutions in support of international affairs and dealings and um, things that have happened over the years. That is nothing new. The council does that, and as I mentioned, when it does, it's usually a quick, decisive vote. Um, in this situation, it wasn't as decisive because of the language and the amount of sensitivity around the subject. So, for people who, had made comments about, why is the Common Council taking this on? Shouldn't we be focusing on more focused community issues, citywide issues that's happening here? And to that point, yes, and that's what we are doing. That's why we are supporting the residents that live here in our city, in our communities, to let them know that we care and let them know that we care about what happens to their family. But again, anyone can go online and research and see all the different resolutions that the Common Council has done. And
Mhm.
it all started with another council member creating a resolution about the attack uh, on Israel by Hamas. So that came before this one. You understand what I'm saying? So this
Mhm.
was that definitely wasn't the first one either.
Okay.
So
Okay. So, if there is going to be multiple municipalities over the next several months passing resolutions for a ceasefire. And it's falling on deaf ears in Washington. What do you think's going to happen?
What I think is going to happen is that people are going to um, become even more frustrated, but wake up in terms of, again, acknowledging that their government is doing nothing while um, thousands of lives are being lost. And again, when election day comes up, there are going to be people who remember that and go to the polls. There are going to be people who organize and do things to be able to, change the direction that politics is going.
So this is going to be very interesting. And Sergio, I got to give you credit for doing this, because lives lost anywhere is a life that should still be living. So I'm going to contact you from time to time so that you can update us on exactly what's going on, with the Common Council, with this resolution, and the impact that it's going to make on the national policy. Would you be up to do more interviews about this?
Sure, absolutely. I actually got a good topic for you to maybe look into now as another conversation with some other people. If you didn't hear, the Albany Common Council is looking into water fluoridation. So putting fluoride in the water, that has been a hot topic lately and will be a hot topic coming up. So it'll be very interesting to get some different perspectives from community members, but also maybe some people in the field that you may know, to be able to speak on the topic and bring some more awareness to it.
Okay, great, great. So we'll talk again. You've been listening to Sergio Adams, and you represent the fifth.
Albany,
What district do you represent? What district am I in? I should be saying.
the Albany 7th Ward.
The seventh ward. And I'm Cynthia Pooler. This is Issues That Matter. So if you like this show, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Surgery, sorry, Sergio. It's been a pleasure talking with you. We'll talk soon, and thank you everybody for listening. Have a great day.
Thank you. Always a great time, Cynthia.